Okay, as you saw in the last video, the Math Antics video, that we are looking at mean median mode today. So we're going to go over, review how to find all of these, because that is review of previous grade levels. And then down at the bottom, we'll have more involved questions to look at with those calculations. So the mean is the average. Remember, in order to find this, you are going to add up all the data points. And then you are going to divide by the number of data points. So to the right, you see that I have a set of 8 data points. So that means that I'm going to add those up and then divide by 8. And when I do, I get 15.875. Okay, the median is going to be that middle number after you put them in order. Now, if you've ever been in the car with your parents and you're going down the interstate or whatever, and there is the concrete middle section between the lanes, or there's a grassy area between the lanes, that would be called the median. And so that's in the middle of the interstate or highway. And same thing with the median with a data set, it's in the middle of that data set. So looking at the data on the right, I would put this in order, least to greatest. And then I find the middle number. If I have an odd amount of data points in the set, it's going to be very easy to find that middle number. If I have an even amount like I do here, I can still find that middle number. I'm just going to have an extra step to do. So I'm going to look and see, okay, what is halfway between 14 and 16? In this case, it's very easy to find. That would be 15. If those numbers are not like nice, easy numbers, what you would do is add them together. 14 and 16, divide by 2 would get me that number halfway between. Okay, mode is going to be the most occurring number. So I'm just going to look and see which one shows up the most. And in this data set, I have 13 is listed twice and 14 is listed twice. So my mode would be 13 and 14. Can you have more than one mode? Well, yes, we just had one in our data set. Could you have no mode? And that is also yes. So I could have a number that doesn't repeat. And so I would say that there's no mode. Do not say that it has 0 mode, because 0 could be a data point in our set. And so that would be misleading if I put a 0. I would say no mode if there's no mode. Okay, so let's look at the questions down at the bottom. So these questions are more than just find the mode or find the median. These questions may have something within the problem that's missing, and maybe we do already have the mean. We already have the average, and we have to find like the missing test score or whatever. So practice 1, your scores on the last 4 language arts tests are 79, 87, 96, 88. What must you score on the 5th test to make a 90% in Mr. McIntyre's language arts class? So I have 5 test scores here. Or I need 5 test scores. So that means I'm going to take the data, divide it by 5, and that needs to equal 90. Okay, so I had a 79, 87, 96, 88, and then my 5th one, I don't know what that is, but I can find that out. So if I think backwards, and if I need a 90% on 5 tests, like that's the average I need, a 90 on 5 tests. Well, if you multiply those two together, 90 times 5, that gives me that all of these test scores together need to equal 450 points. So all I did was really just take this equation, multiply by 5 on both sides. And that cancels, and I'm left with 450. Then from there, all I would do is take 450, subtract all of the test scores I do have, and then I would get that x equals 100. So I would need 100 on the 5th test. Okay, let's look at the second example. And this will be solved the same way we just did the first one. So the Georgia Lady Gym Dogs needed a mean score of 9.59 on the floor exercises to win their meet with the Florida Gators. The first 2 Georgia competitors scored 9.85 and 9.2. What must the last competitor score to clinch the win? So I have 3 scores that I'm looking at. So I have a 9.85 plus 9.2 plus that 3rd score. I don't know what that is yet. I would divide it by 3, and that gives me an average of 9.59. So I would take the average I need, 9.59, multiply it by the 3 competitors, and that gives me that I need a total amount of 28.77. Well, if I know 2 of the scores, then I could just subtract those from each other. So 28.77 minus 9.85 minus 9.2, and I get the 3rd competitor needs 9.72, or technically higher, right? She can always, or he or she can always score higher than that. Okay, practice question number 3. The drama club projected attendance of 250 people per performance to make $10,000. There are 8 scheduled performances. The actual attendance at the first 5 was 200, 232, 278, 196, and 224. What must the average attendance be at the next 3 performances to meet their projected average attendance of 250 people? So put in those first 5 I'm going to put an X to represent how many people need to come for the last 3. And I divide that by the 8 performances, and that equals 250. So if I need 250 people each night for 8 nights, then that means that I need a total of 2,000 people. So the way I got that was just to multiply 250 by 8. So then I'm going to take the first 5 performances, and I'm going to subtract those from 2,000. And so that gives me that X equals 870. So that means over those next 3 performances, I need a total of 870 people to attend in order to reach the goal. Okay, let's look at practice question number 4. So the data set below, do you think the mean or median would be the better measure of center for the data set? So in a perfect world with perfect data, all of these calculations would show us the measure of central tendency, like in the middle. But when I have an outlier, which is an extremely high number or low number compared to the rest of the data, then one of these things is going to be affected the most from that. So let's see with this data set, which one is affected the most. So let's start with the mean. So I'm going to add up all of those numbers, divide by 8, because there's 8 data points. And I would get 38.5. So this is just calculating normal mean. I get 38.5. Well, if you look at your data set, I do have an outlier here. This 100 is very large compared to the other data sets or data points. So let's take that number out. And let's see what our average is like without that 100 in it. So again, I would add up those data points, divide it by 7 now because I only have 7 data points. And I would get 29.71, and it keeps going. So this is without the 100 in there. Okay, so you can see that that does affect it by almost 9 points. So let's see if the median is as affected as much. So I would need to put them in order. I am going to include 100 the first time. Okay, so the middle would be right here between 25 and 38. So I'm going to add 25 plus 38, divide it by 2, which gives me a median of 31.5. Then I'm going to calculate the median again, but I'm going to take out the 100 this time. So what that does for the median is it's going to shift it over 1 spot. So now my middle is 25. Again, this is without the 100. So the one that was affected the most would be the mean. It was almost 9 points, whereas this one is 6.5 points difference. So the mean is affected the most.